the luxury bag market is crashing, as over 2 million designer bags have just been dumped into the market. Prices are tanking, resale values are collapsing, and collectors are panicking. We're talking about a full-blown meltdown in one of the most stable corners of fashion, the luxury handbag world. The bags that once sat at the top of the pyramid, bags that were passed down through generations, collected by the wealthiest of the wealthy, are now being slashed in price, desperate to sell. That Birkin you used to dream of? It's suddenly looking a lot more affordable, but that doesn't exactly mean it's desirable anymore. The luxury bag market crash of 2025 isn't just a small blip. It's a full-blown disaster, and it's got collectors, investors, and even casual shoppers reeling. The bags that once commanded insane resale prices are now gathering dust on shelves and platforms. So what happened? How did we go from a booming market where owning the right bag meant you had status and wealth to a flooded market where nobody's sure which bag is worth owning anymore? So what really caused this? How did the luxury bag market implode so fast? And more importantly, should you take advantage of these price drops while they last? Let's unpack it, one bag at a time. The build-up to the crash. What went wrong? It didn't happen overnight. The signs were there for years. Luxury bags have always been a status symbol. Think of Birkins, Kellys, Louis Vuitton's Speedy, the bags that people saved for, invested in, and ultimately passed down through generations. But somewhere along the way, the equation shifted. First, it was resale markets. What was once a niche business exploded, with platforms like The Real, Vestiaire Collective, and Rebag, allowing everyday shoppers to buy and sell high-end bags. What seemed like a dream for those trying to get into the world of luxury turned into a flooded market. More bags, more sellers, more buyers. And suddenly, the value of a luxury bag was no longer based on exclusivity. It was based on availability. With luxury brands pumping out new bags every season, it wasn't long before the resale market became oversaturated. When demand and supply don't match, things go awry. Resale prices started dipping. Those once coveted bags, they weren't flying off the shelves anymore. And investors who had once been buying up bags as safe assets were now looking at their collections and wondering whether they'd made a mistake. But that was just the beginning. The explosion of secondary market platforms. As we entered the 2020s, the secondary market for luxury goods boomed. Luxury bags weren't just a personal investment anymore, they were an investment asset class. As brands like Hermès, Louis Vuitton, and Gucci produced bags at ever-increasing rates, the resale platforms flooded with bags that were once hard to get. In fact, platforms like The Real reported record-breaking growth in bag sales. Each year, what was once reserved for the most exclusive boutiques was suddenly available at the click of a button. And that's where the problems began. These platforms didn't just offer a way for collectors to resell bags, they democratized access to high-end luxury, turning what was once a rarefied aspirational market into an open playing field. People who could only dream of owning a Birkin or Kelly were suddenly able to buy used versions at more accessible prices. And that's exactly what happened. The market for pre-owned luxury bags exploded. This was supposed to be a good thing, right? After all, the more people who could afford to buy bags, the more value those bags would have, right? Wrong. As more bags entered the market, their scarcity decreased. And when luxury becomes too accessible, it loses its appeal. What was once a must-have, once rare item suddenly started to feel like just another bag. Even high-net-worth individuals who had previously been loyal to these bags started moving away from the scene. Instead of dropping hundreds of thousands of dollars on new items, they started opting for other investment opportunities that didn't involve the risk of a flooded secondary market. So those who once bought bags for the status and long-term value were now selling them off, pushing them onto platforms at much lower prices. Before we go on, don't forget to like this video and hit that subscribe button. The surge in production, a double-edged sword. Let's talk about production. The luxury goods industry has always been about scarcity. Hermès Birkins, for example, have always been hard to come by. Limited availability made them coveted. This was the brand's strategy: make people wait, and they would pay a premium for the privilege of owning a rare piece of leather art. But as the luxury market grew in the mid-2010s, many brands, including Hermès, Louis Vuitton, and even Gucci, started ramping up production. They thought increasing availability would meet the growing demand. However, this was a huge miscalculation. What was once rare and precious became abundant. The bags, still priced high, lost the rare allure that once made them iconic. The secondary market that had once been a place for rare, limited edition items now became oversaturated with bags that weren't even considered rare anymore. Collectors began to question if their bags were really worth the price they'd paid. Was a Birkin still the investment it once was, if there were thousands of them circulating? Were Louis Vuitton Speedies and Neverfulls truly classics? Or had they become just another branded item people bought because they felt they should? The financial crisis and inflation, timing it wrong. Of course, no one could predict the timing of the financial crisis that hit in 2025. Inflation had already caused major shifts in consumer spending, and by the time the luxury bag market was at its peak, the economy was slowing down. People weren't spending the way they used to. Bags that were once considered must-have items were now seen as frivolous. The pandemic recovery also played a part. As people started spending again, the initial explosion of wealth was not enough to keep the luxury bag market booming. With interest rates climbing and global uncertainties around supply chains and inflation, luxury goods started to feel like an unnecessary extravagance for many. This caused prices to drop significantly as consumers became hesitant to make huge purchases. The luxury market was suddenly flooded with items that no one could afford or wanted. The aftermath: prices plummet and the bag market becomes a ghost town. Here, with the luxury bag market oversaturated and the economy struggling, it didn't take long for prices to start cratering. Bags that once sold for astronomical prices suddenly saw massive drops in resale value. What was once a highly desirable investment piece, whether it was a Birkin, a Kelly, or a Louis Vuitton, now struggled to move at any price. What's worse, it wasn't just the lower-tier luxury bags that were affected. Even the top-tier bags like Hermes Birkins, Chanel flaps, and Louis Vuitton's limited edition designs, which had once been guaranteed to appreciate in value, started losing ground. A Birkin that once sold for $40,000 in 2020 was suddenly struggling to fetch $25,000. The luxury bag market had gone from a booming, exclusive industry to an unpredictable one. The 2 million bags dumped into the market didn't just flood the system. It left a trail of chaos in its wake. Buyers who had been waiting years for their prized bags started to question whether it was worth the investment. The resale platforms that had once thrived off selling luxury bags at premiums suddenly found themselves battling a buyer's market. The influx of inventory meant prices for luxury bags on resale platforms went into freefall. The only people benefiting were those who had sold off their bags earlier, capitalizing on the inflated prices. But for those who held on to their bags, it became clear the market had crashed and it wasn't going to recover quickly. The resale platforms, caught in the crossfire, platforms like The Real, Vestiaire Collective, and Rebag had been booming before 2025. These platforms had become the go-to spots for people looking to buy or sell high-end bags without having to go to traditional boutiques. In fact, they had become a crucial piece of the luxury bag resale market, connecting buyers and sellers in real time. However, when the floodgates opened and those 2 million bags hit the secondary market, these platforms found themselves overwhelmed. Resale prices, which had once been seen as profitable, became inconsistent. The value of a Chanel bag one month could be half of what it was the next. As more sellers listed bags and prices plummeted, it created a buyer's hesitation. Buyers simply weren't sure where the market was going. Was now the right time to buy a $10,000 Chanel flap, or would it be worth half that price a few months later? The platforms scrambled to adjust their pricing models. At the same time, they found it hard to attract new sellers. Why would someone invest in an item at an inflated price if they knew there was a chance the bag would lose half its value in just a year? As prices continued to tumble, many collectors started pulling their bags from these platforms. Resellers, too, started holding off from buying bags for investment, realizing that the market had shifted. Those who had built entire businesses around flipping luxury bags were left holding onto inventory that wasn't moving, watching their once profitable asset depreciate in real time. The shift in consumer behavior. What happened to the bag obsession? So, what happened to the luxury bag enthusiasts who used to obsess over the latest collection, the limited edition drops, and the newest colorways? Why did so many of them suddenly stop buying, or worse, start selling? One major reason was the shift in consumer mindset. For years, luxury bags had been seen as timeless investments. People didn't just buy them for fashion, they bought them to pass down, to use as financial assets, and to hold on to as a sign of long-term wealth. But that perception started to change when people began to realize that these bags, especially those produced in mass quantities, weren't as safe an investment as they once seemed. High net worth individuals, who had long been drawn to bags as status symbols, began to diversify their portfolios. Rather than sinking money into bags, they moved their wealth into real estate, stocks, art, and cryptocurrency, leaving bags behind as an outdated form of conspicuous consumption. Social media also played a huge role in this shift. With the rise of platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, bags went from being coveted items that showed wealth and exclusivity to publicly flaunted commodities. Everyone had a Louis Vuitton, everyone had a Gucci. What was once rare was suddenly everywhere, and with that ubiquity came a loss of appeal. People didn't want to show off bags that everyone else could buy, and the it bag mentality started to fade. Instead, consumers began shifting toward quiet luxury, pieces that didn't scream logos but whispered sophistication. Brands like The Row, Loewe, and Bottega Veneta began gaining traction. Their bags weren't plastered with the designer's name. They didn't need to be. These new luxury bags offered a sense of exclusivity without the obvious branding, appealing to a new generation of wealthy consumers looking for understated elegance. The old ways of thinking, that bags were symbols of success and wealth, were becoming outdated. In a world where luxury was defined by subtlety and not by logos, the once beloved it bags were suddenly out of step with what consumers wanted. And that shift was the final nail in the coffin for the luxury bag market. The final impact: the market will never be the same. As the 2 million bags that flooded the market continue to sit unsold, there's no doubt that the luxury bag market is irreversibly changed. What was once a surefire investment for high net worth individuals has now become a high-risk gamble. The days of buying a bag and knowing it will appreciate in value are gone. Now, buyers are questioning whether that $10,000 investment in a Louis Vuitton or a Chanel bag is worth it. The future of luxury bags will look very different, with many buyers now shifting their focus to other forms of luxury investments. We'll likely see more niche brands rise in popularity, those that focus on craftsmanship, individuality, and scarcity. Brands that continue to push exclusivity rather than mass production will be the ones that thrive in the post-crash world. The road to recovery: who will survive the crash? Now that the initial shockwaves have settled and the flood of bags has finally slowed, the industry is starting to take a long, hard look at the aftermath. The 2 million bags that flooded the market were just the tip of the iceberg. The crash of 2025 hasn't just impacted resale prices, it has shaken the foundations of the entire luxury bag market. So, what does recovery look like, and which brands will come out on top? While we've seen the market take a hit, not all is lost. The luxury bag industry has been through dips before, and while this one is certainly different, it's not unprecedented. However, the brands that make it through this turbulent time will have to rethink their strategies, and fast. Brands in crisis. Who's struggling the most? The brands hit hardest by the market crash are the ones that were built on wide accessibility and mass appeal. These are the names that turned their bags into status symbols for the masses, flooding the market and making their bags too easy to come by. Louis Vuitton is one of the first to feel the sting. For years, the brand has been the gold standard in luxury. However, its rapid expansion into accessible luxury and its overuse of logos started to backfire. Now, despite still being one of the world's most recognizable luxury brands, it's losing its appeal among the ultra-wealthy. The very exclusivity that made the brand desirable has now become a liability. Louis Vuitton bags are everywhere, and when luxury is everywhere, it's no longer luxury. Similarly, Gucci is feeling the effects of the crash. The brand has moved through several reinventions over the years, but the hyper-exposure of its signature logo has made it too mainstream. Once a brand beloved for its sophisticated craftsmanship, Gucci has fallen into the trap of producing items aimed at a younger audience, trading in exclusivity for streetwear trends. While it's still a favorite for the middle class, it no longer commands the respect it once did from high net worth individuals. The irony is that these brands, once symbols of true wealth, now feel a little like loud fashion statements rather than timeless treasures. As the market crash continues, these brands face a daunting challenge. How do you regain the appeal of exclusivity when your bags are everywhere? The shift toward quiet luxury: how Bottega Veneta leads the charge. On the flip side, some brands have embraced the crash by doubling down on what made them great in the first place: craftsmanship and subtlety. The shift toward quiet luxury is arguably the biggest trend to emerge from the 2025 crash. Brands like Bottega Veneta have thrived precisely because they've maintained their commitment to quality over quantity. The brand's famous Intrecciato leather remains an emblem of understated luxury. There's no logo, just pure craftsmanship. This approach, which may have seemed too minimalistic for a while, now feels like a breath of fresh air in a world where logos had become the only sign of status. Bottega Veneta's bags are exclusive because they aren't immediately recognizable from a distance. The luxury lies in the feel of the leather, the smoothness of the stitching, and the craftsmanship that went into each design. For the new class of ultra-wealthy consumers, those who care more about rarity and originality than logos, Bottega Veneta has become the go-to brand. In fact, after the market crash, the brand saw a surge in demand, with pre-owned items selling for more than their original price. This trend is a powerful testament to the fact that exclusivity and quality are never out of style. Luxury bags don't need to scream, they just need to whisper. The rise of customization, a new era for luxury bags. As the 2025 market crash reshapes the industry, another trend has started to emerge: customized luxury bags. The idea of personalizing a luxury bag is gaining traction. Consumers want bags that speak to their individuality, and the idea of owning a one-of-a-kind piece is more appealing than ever. Brands like Louis Vuitton have already started to experiment with customization, offering customers the ability to personalize their bags with initials, patches, and colors. However, it's not just about adding a name or a charm to a bag. It's about creating a completely unique piece that reflects a buyer's taste and identity. These bags can range from choosing a custom handle to more intricate details like embossing or hand painting. Customization gives consumers a sense of ownership over the luxury experience, and it allows them to invest in something that no one else can have. It's an antidote to the oversaturation problem that has plagued the market. For consumers, it's no longer about collecting every bag from a particular brand. It's about curating a collection of items that feel personally meaningful and exclusive. In fact, as sustainability and ethics become more important to today's luxury consumer, this desire for bespoke, one-off bags could change the landscape entirely. If consumers know they're contributing to a more sustainable production model and they can be assured that their bags are made with care, the appeal of bespoke bags may become the future of luxury. The future of investment in luxury bags. Are they still worth it? The primary question that buyers are asking after the crash is this: are luxury bags still a good investment? The short answer: yes, but the market has changed. There was a time when buying a luxury bag, particularly one from brands like Hermès, Chanel, and Louis Vuitton, was an almost guaranteed way to see your purchase appreciate in value. But after the market crash of 2025, reliability in the bag investment sector has eroded. Now, buying a luxury bag is no longer about expecting it to rise in value. It's about appreciating it for what it is: craftsmanship, timeless design, and quality materials. The market will continue to be unpredictable. However, buyers are starting to realize that a luxury bag's value comes less from its potential resale price and more from its ability to represent status, culture, and personal taste. Bags that can maintain their aesthetic value and emotional significance will weather the storm. Those that rely solely on investment potential, they're more likely to be left behind. The brands that will survive. As the dust settles from the crash, we're seeing the survival of the fittest. The brands that emerge victorious will be the ones that adapt to the new reality of luxury. Brands that focus on quality over quantity, exclusivity, and craftsmanship will continue to appeal to those seeking true luxury. Meanwhile, those that continue to chase mass market appeal and overproduction will find themselves watching the market continue to dip. In the end, the luxury bag market crash of 2025 wasn't just about bags losing value. It was about the luxury market reasserting what truly makes an item worth having. It's not about how many bags are on the shelves, how many logos you can plaster on a design, or how much money you can make from reselling. It's about exclusivity, artistry, and subtlety. The bags that survive will be the ones that embody these qualities. The final impact. What happens next? After the luxury bag market crash of 2025, it's clear that the industry is forever changed. For every bag that didn't survive, there are brands out there carefully recalibrating, adapting, and reinventing themselves to meet the new demands of luxury. The most successful brands will likely be those that balance exclusivity with authenticity. They will have to connect with consumers on a deeper level than ever before. But let's take a step back and look at what's next. The long-term effects on the luxury industry. When a market crashes, it doesn't just affect the bags, it reverberates through the entire industry. Resale values for luxury goods are never going to return to the highs they once experienced, and that's a reality that investors are going to have to face. However, that doesn't mean the end of the road. In fact, for many collectors and fashion lovers, the crash represents an opportunity. Collectors may find that the bags they once missed out on are now available at far more reasonable prices. If you're someone who's always wanted that Chanel classic flap or the elusive Hermes Birkin, the next few years might offer the chance to buy those bags for a fraction of what they would have cost 2 years ago. In a sense, the market is resetting. While bags may not see the kind of massive appreciation they once did, the brands that weather the storm, those with the courage to adapt to the new needs of the consumer, will remain valuable in different ways, not just as investments, but as timeless objects of art and craftsmanship. The future of luxury bag brands. While the immediate future of the luxury bag market is unclear, some brands are already adapting to these changing times. For instance, Bottega Veneta and The Row, which are known for their minimalist, logo-free designs, are thriving precisely because they embraced quiet luxury long before it became the trend. With logos out of favor and craftsmanship now at the forefront, bags from brands like Loewe, Bottega Veneta, and Chanel, if they focus on their more classic non-logo designs, will continue to hold their own. These brands have always relied on their quality and the story behind each piece, rather than just flashy logos. For them, the crash could actually be a catalyst for a new kind of resurgence, one where sustainability and authenticity lead the way. Luxury bags made from natural materials, sustainable leather, and artisan-crafted components will likely see a rise in demand as the market moves away from mass-produced items. Shoppers who are used to waiting for a bag, those who understand the value of scarcity and craftsmanship, will turn back to brands that represent a true, enduring luxury. The bag market isn't dead, it's just evolving, rising from the ashes. Will the market recover? It's hard to say when or if the luxury bag market will fully recover to its 2019 to 2021 glory days. However, there are signs that the market is already starting to find a balance. More and more, we're seeing luxury brands limit production to maintain exclusivity. The era of bags being mass-produced and sold at a discount in outlets is fading. In its place, we're seeing brands return to curated collections that are truly rare, designed for the small niche customer base who truly appreciates them. The rise of sustainable luxury is a trend that's poised to continue, and many luxury bag companies are already investing in eco-friendly and ethical materials. The wealthiest consumers are shifting away from purchasing purely for show, increasingly focused on brands with values they can get behind. Luxury now represents something that lasts. Not just a price tag, but a legacy. The concept of exclusive luxury will find its way back to the top as brands carefully curate their collections and embrace more personal, bespoke offerings. Consumers are starting to realize that luxury isn't about flaunting logos. It's about owning something unique, something well-made, and something that stands the test of time. Conclusion: the end of an era or a new beginning. So, what does the crash of 2025 really mean for the future of luxury bags? It means the era of excess, of constant new releases and logo-driven purchases is over. The market is resetting, and the brands that survive will be the ones that remember what luxury is truly about: scarcity, craftsmanship, and sustainability. The buyers who once flocked to the latest bag releases now have to ask themselves, what does luxury truly mean? For some, it's an investment in an item that will grow in value. For others, it's the pursuit of timeless elegance and uniqueness. The truth is, the future of luxury bags will look very different, but it won't be any less valuable. It'll just be less about the quantity and more about the quality. And for those willing to evolve with the times, the market will still offer treasures. Well, there you have it, the luxury bag market crash of 2025 and what's next for the future of bags and high-end fashion. The market is changing, and for the brands that make it through this reset, there's a new opportunity to define what luxury really means. If you're someone who's eyeing a luxury bag, now might be the perfect time to rethink your purchase. What kind of luxury speaks to you, and which brand represents true value in your eyes? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated on the latest trends, market shifts, and what's next in the world of luxury fashion.